So that was probably
I'm not gonna make
See, I feel like it was teaching online.
I'll just stand behind you. Yes, of course. No, I'm Jenny's coming and I'll stand for Jenny. But yes, of course.
Well, yeah, only want it online on Thursday.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. Looking forward to this weekend. And what's
You just can't rotate. That's just very, let me, I got it turned for like, just barely. Don't touch it. Yeah.
cell phone, don't let that annoying ring happen right in the middle of the debate. And then also the bathrooms are, we have a really long hallway here, clear down to the end of the hallway and to the right, I mean, to the left.
Right.
The other thing, a wall, not a bathroom. So, yeah, go to the left and then just across that storage room, and you'll see that little bathroom back there. And I'll be reading the rules of engagement in just a couple of minutes when we get some more chairs in for everybody. So thanks.
Are we ready?
That was good.
That was good. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Wyatt with the Candidate Identification Support Committee, and this is my partner here to ask questions tonight, Rose Taylor. And we want to welcome you to the Lebanon mayoral candidate debate, where we have Ken Jacola or Jackla, however.
Jacqueline.
Jackla, and then we have Daniel Nassau.
Close enough.
And,
We both got
Mr.
I think you know who they are.
it.
Okay, here's our rules of engagement. The audience, no cheering, no booing, no throwing shoes, no rotten tomatoes, no fights breaking out, none of that stuff, okay? So, beyond the opening introduction. So the candidates are gonna get opening statements. They're gonna each get 3 minutes opening with their biography and their vision for Lebanon and whatever else they might want to talk about. The debate will initially cover 5 topic areas. The topic areas have not been disclosed to either candidate and are drawn from questions submitted by citizens of Lebanon. Similar questions were consolidated into topic areas. The questions will be asked, and the first candidate to respond was decided by a coin flip. And following the first topic, questions will alternate between the candidates, and Ken's going to go first. We just had the coin flip. So following each question, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer the question. Following each candidate's response, candidates will then be allowed a 1-minute rebuttal period if desired. And following the 1-minute rebuttal period, candidates can continue back and forth for 30 seconds until the topic is exhausted or the moderators must move along in the interest of time. Following the debate, if the candidates agree, the floor will be open for public questions. You agree to public questions? After the debate?
Well, let's talk about it then.
Yeah,
We'll see how it goes.
I think we'll do it, unless we're here till 10 o'clock with 5 topic areas. Let's hope not. Okay. Let me get back and we'll be ready to go. So our five questions have been sealed in this pickle jar on Pumpkin Wagon's porch, hermetically sealed since this afternoon. Anybody over 50 doesn't know what we're talking about. Younger 50 doesn't know what we're talking about. All right, so we're just going to randomly draw a question out of there and then provide them with the subject area, and then we're going to read the question off the card. You want to go first?
Okay.
Here we go.
We're doing.
Oh, wait a minute. We got 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
And Lindsay over here is our timer. So,
Okay, 3 minutes. You tell me
All right.
when.
okay, whenever you want to proceed.
As soon as I speak, I guess. Hey, I'd like to thank everybody that came tonight. We both really appreciate community involvement, and that I can tell there's a lot of supporters on both sides. That's good. That's a good thing. So in recent years, I found that government has become polarizing. In Lebanon, our community has witnessed this trend to occur on occasion. I want to provide leadership which listens, respects, and provides a stable foundation for the citizens of Lebanon so they can realize their own dreams through opportunities. While we may not always agree, I will always listen to all viewpoints. I will take them into account during our decision-making process. In short, I will provide strong, proven leadership, which will carry our community far into the future. A little bit about my background and positions I've held. One, I'm a longtime Lebanon resident, living here since I was just 3. I'm 54 now, so 51 years. Good at math too, I guess. So military combat veteran. I'm a retired command sergeant major. Initially went into the active Army and then retired out of the Oregon Army National Guard, working at an executive level in the state headquarters in Salem. Commercial building owner downtown. My family, my wife and I own 2 of the buildings downtown. We've been working really hard on those buildings constantly. In fact, I was just in the building with the electrician, getting electricity to the second story on one of the buildings for the first time in probably 50 years. Lebanon high school graduate and class of 86, and a graduate of Oregon State University with a bachelor's of science in agricultural sciences. Initially started with business and got into business with my father, and then went back to school later in my careers and finished up with agricultural science because it just interests me more. So platform, I have four items in my platform. It's really simple, okay? My slogan is back to basics. That's not stepping back. That's reestablishing the foundation of Lebanon so we can move forward. First, law enforcement, improving officer recruitment, retention, and training. The model of policing is constantly changing daily and yearly. We see that all over the nation. Responsible community development, incentivizing single-family home construction and renovation. A lot of citizens not complain, that's a better word than that, voice their opinions about the amount of apartments going up in our community. Third, budgetary responsibility. If you look at the budget of Lebanon, we're currently 50 million in long-term debt.
Good evening, everyone. And again, thank you for being here. When I approached Ms. Lindsay some time ago about coming out here to introduce myself, I walked across the window and I saw some of the signs out there and I said, okay, yeah, maybe not, but okay. And I said, I'd like to come out and introduce myself and find out a little bit more about the groups that are here. And we talked back and forth and scheduled some things, and it became a debate. So I want to thank you for working with me. And it was fantastic. But one of the reasons I wanted to do that is because the mayor, whomever you choose to be mayor, is not just your mayor or their mayor to everyone, the entire community. And we have to work on your behalf because we are your representative. And I was concerned about making this decision because I'm not a lifelong resident, right? And I haven't been here that long. And there's a gentleman that I respect very well, and I called him. He's not my supporter, by the way, believe it or not. And he said to me, G, you haven't been here that long, but you have done more in this community and more for this community than many people that lived here their entire lives. And I took that, I took it well. And even though I wasn't sure I still wanted to do this, but eventually I made the decision. And here's why I made the decision. I made the decision because I love this town and this community. I love the people and the residents, and I love our small businesses. I love our big businesses. I love the direction that we have been going ever since I've been here, and that includes what the council and Mayor Paul Aziz has done. I want to be a part of this town because my wife Jenny and I, we got here to take care of our parents. They had already been here for almost 20 years, right? And she's from here. And when I got here, I wasn't sure that I was going to be accepted. I wasn't sure that I was going to fit in, but I have fit in. You have welcomed me with open arms. I love this community and I want to see it just soar and excel. And I tell folks that we are on the precipice of immense and great growth. In the next 4 or 5 years, we'll probably have access to 1,000 more single-family homes. That's an amazing number to jump in such a short period of time, right? So we have to be prepared in a comprehensive way, both in infrastructure, in police, in fire, in school, and you name it, the list goes on and on and on. We can't focus on one thing. We have to focus on our community as a whole. And together, we can make this right. We can make Lebanon become a jewel of this valley.
Were you done?
I think so.
Okay. I was gonna say, let me finish.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the 5 focus areas.
Before you do you guys want a warning, like 1 minute? 30
Yeah, because I
seconds?
could have sped up a little bit.
Okay, what, do you want me to do 1 minute and 30 seconds or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
30 seconds left. Just
Okay.
give me a finger. Not give me a finger, but just hold a finger.
Okay, this first question has 2 parts, and part of it's already been answered. Lebanon is short 8 police officers. They often have 1 to 2 officers per shift. They don't hold prisoners because of inadequate staff, and they are forced to release them. What is your plan, if elected, to get and support the police department? And what is your position on implementing the red flag laws here in Lebanon?
Okay, I'll address the first one. Red flag laws, I don't agree with them. They don't follow due process. I'm a big believer in the US Constitution, and we're afforded that through the 14th Amendment and the Second Amendment. So I'm not for those. For the police, we're currently working at a 60% staffing level, which means 2 officers per shift. On a Saturday night, there's only 2 officers protecting the whole city. Okay, so that turns in from proactive policing to reactive policing. Okay, my plan is to work hand in hand with the chief to improve the models of policing to fit nowadays environment, to work on recruitment and retention. We have a big problem with retention because once an officer gets certified, they move to other departments that honestly pay more. It's that simple. So, and then third, it goes back to the model of policing is changing, that we have to improve our training, make sure our officers are getting the proper training. So that is my plan. Like I said, I've been working with the chief on a couple different meetings and coming up with different innovative ways to address this problem.
Our police chief has been working on this for quite some time. This is not new. The pandemic caused some great issues. We did lose some police officers. We do lose police officers to other departments. The council enacted a financial stimulus to help him recruit already trained officers. And that was something that it's hard to compete against when you have Portland offering $20,000 bonuses and you have some of the other towns offering $10,000, $15,000 bonuses. We were able to come up with a little bit, but the chief was able to recruit without using that. And we have hired, as a matter of yesterday, we've already hired several officers to fill in the ranks. And they're local boys. They're local Lebanites. So we appreciate that. And I have worked with the chief as well, and the chief does what he can. But what I have to respect about the chief is that he has taken accountability and responsibility for his need to really scrutinize cadets, right? His interviews. He's very, very selective because he knows that our residents demand and should get the kind of respect that they deserve. when you get stopped or you get yourself into some kind of trouble, the kind of police department that you want is not a law and order. You want protect and serve. And our chief is really big on that. So he accepts that responsibility that he even, he's out in the streets, patrolling the streets himself, because that's the kind of chief he is. And even though our police officers are tired and doing all the overtime, they don't leave. The police that work for us love Lebanon and they love working for this administration. So I'll continue to work with him. We all are already recruiting. He's done an amazing job in terms of recruiting in many different areas. It's hard to recruit against others that have higher bonuses. So the folks that we hire really want to be in a small town environment like Lebanon.
Rebuttal?
Yeah.
Okay. He's absolutely right. They have hired, but what the problem is retaining them. I don't think the problem's ever been recruitment, because they know Lebanon's the place they can come and get hired and then move on. Most of them don't move to Portland, by the way. They move to Eastern Oregon, where everybody wants to live in Bend, because that county department pays one of the highest wages in the state. The other thing I wanted to say is I'm all in on the police. I was a reserve police officer in Albany, Oregon, 93 to 95. I already conveyed to the chief that I'll become a reserve no matter what the outcome is, so we can help this community get the policing back that you deserve.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that. The folks that we have policing here, and the folks that the chief is very scrutinizes very well, is because he knows that Bend exists and other places exist that they can get more money. So when he recruits a policeman or police officer, he really wants to make sure that they want to be in this small town environment. They don't want to just come in and get trained. And that's the opportunity when you have folks that are already trained. They already have that experience in other places. They're looking to move into the small town environment and be able to be here to protect and serve folks that really support them and want them to be out there. And that's a pretty difficult thing, to make sure that your community wants to work with you and wants you to be there for them.
No.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next subject area, which is the role of mayor and Lebanon local government. So here's your question, and you're going first on this one. What do you see as the top 3 most important issues in our community? And then the second part of that question is, if elected, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process of our town?
Top 3, safe streets, back to the police department, but not just police department. We have our fire department. So safe streets, safe neighborhoods, safe families. Number 2, making sure that in the coming future, we have a balanced housing inventory. And that is really important. The third topic is keeping our businesses open. We live in a town with incredible opportunity. We see it all the time. New businesses opening. Unfortunately, they're opening in the carcass of someone that just failed, something that just closed. So that's a problem. I'm downtown. We have Lebanon Downtown Association doing all these events. And I have people that live here, and I talk to them and they're like, oh, I didn't know this store was here. Wow, this is fantastic. It's amazing. I didn't know this. They had just been here 6 months ago. And then I realized there's 3, 4 more new stores. So that approach, not approach, but those are the top 3 for me. Safe streets, balanced housing, and keeping our businesses open. Do you want the second part of that, or? The second part is engaging the community.
Yes.
We live in a community of great folks. We are attentive, we are kind. There's a reason we call this the city that friendliness built, right? We are generous. If you don't know what I mean, we have auction season here for all the nonprofits, and our town is able to raise a lot of money for our local nonprofits. So what we need to do is as a leader, it's not about power, it's about leadership. It's about vision, inspiration, motivation, helping us move from apathy to action. And as your leader, I believe that I have the skills required to help us do that as a community.
You need me to reread the question for you?
No, no,
Okay.
no. The, my top priorities, I already mentioned my platform, the law enforcement, responsible community development, and budgetary responsibility. The last one I didn't get a chance to do because the beeper went off, was transparency. The city website, modifying that so information gets out and it's, you know, present day information, not old stuff that's outdated. So I talked to the city manager about that subject because I think I already talked about the first three priorities. She said it does need to be improved. We'll find the resources somehow to improve it, but we're not going to take from other departments to do that. We'll just come up with innovative ideas to change that. The biggest role of mayor, in my opinion, and is to represent all of the citizens of Lebanon. I know there's people in this room that do not agree with me at all, and I know there's people that don't agree with Kamau. But our job is to represent everyone. That's why I said in my opening remarks that I will listen to everybody, because the only way you learn is to listen. And you learn this much from everybody. Trust me, you do. So, like I said, law enforcement, community development, transparency, and budgetary responsibility. Those are my big pushes, and I have priorities within each of those groups. So thank you.
Sure. I've been asked a couple of times, what's your platform? And I'm like, I don't have a platform. But what is it you're doing? Well, to me, your platform is a table, something you stand on, a soapbox, something that lifts you up. For me, it's not about being lifted up. I don't need that. For me, it's about my community. For me, it's what we can do to better our community. You know, our 2040 vision plan has already been done. 1,000 of you came together and did that over a year and a half. And those are the things that our community wants to see. Now, can we improve on them? Yes, we will. Can we make some changes? Yes, we will. I would like to see more tourism. I would like to be able to reach out to other local governments because they have the same issues, especially the coast ones. They have the same issue that we have. Share resources, share ideas. I just came from a League of Oregon Cities where I met so many mayors and so many councilors, and we all, most of us share the same issues, whether it's homelessness. Okay.
Let me finish some remarks.
Whether it's homelessness, businesses opening and closing, shortage in the police departments and so forth and so on, transparency, communication, we all share the same issues. So how do we come together, even outside our little town, and work with other municipalities and come up with solutions that works for everybody, long-term solutions?
I'd like to, I'm glad he brought up the 2040 vision. It's a document that was produced in 2016, if you don't know. 1,000 people, citizens and community leaders in the city put that document together to try to help us take the city into 2040. The document hasn't really been updated or managed since 2018 because of COVID. Okay, so on the 2040 vision, the first thing that needs to happen is a reevaluation to make sure that the visions and the strategies within that document are still relevant. Okay, second thing is that it needs to be manageable and it needs to have management. I would take responsibility for that. And also it needs to have measurables in there, meaning standards that we can tell that it's succeeding. So that's my opinion on the 2040 vision.
That plan already is planned on a refurbish. The problem is, in 2 months, 3 months, we have a completely new council. Okay, so we have put it on hold in order for the new council to come in so that can be reviewed. If you look at it, you'll see that most of the agenda items, and there's 7 different areas, most of the agenda items that were supposed to be done by the city, most of those have been done.
He's correct on that. I talked to the city manager, had a meeting with her the other morning, and we went through this document, and we both shared the same view that it needs to be gone through and adjustments need to be made to it. Find some standards that we can measure and make sure that it's successful. But yes, it is moving forward. COVID slowed it down, and she did mention that because of the new council that they were going to hold off up until after the election.
And as you look at those line items and you see that the items that the city was responsible for, most of those have been done. But the areas that we were in of issue is the areas where a local nonprofit, a local organization was in charge of. And because of the pandemic, because people have left town, people have aged out, that's why it needs to be renewed. So my vision is to recruit, my vision is to inspire and motivate community members and organizations to come back to the table and look at how we can continue that plan and or change it, right? So that it suits where we are today. Because where we were, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and through the pandemic might not be the same.
Okay, our next subject is going to be on business. We see many vacant buildings and offices throughout Lebanon, and many people feel Lebanon has too many pot shops and alcohol establishments relative to our population. What can be done to, number one, bring in new business? Number two, make it easier for existing businesses to survive. And number three, make it a business-friendly city.
I believe it's already business friendly. It's just that most of the areas, well, the strip mall right here, there's a lot of vacancies here. These are platforms that are outdated. With online sales, with the way people can network now, it's changed the brick and mortar to more of an online thing. However, a lot of the buildings in downtown that are empty, they're owned by absentee owners, meaning people don't live in the community that own them. Not saying they're bad people, but that has a little bit to do. They've owned them for many years. I know this because I own 2 of the commercial buildings in downtown, and they've owned them for years. They probably paid $10,000 for them, and they're just sitting on them because they'll get somebody in there every once in a while. What we need to encourage is those owners to take actual ownership of those buildings. That can go through information campaigns and just reaching out to them. Okay. What was the other part of the question? Stop my time, please. Okay.
Okay, bring in new business, make it easier for existing business to survive, and make it business friendly.
Okay. I'll reclaim my time. No, just kidding. To make it in the downtown area, the biggest problem with business is parking situation. I think there needs to be a parking plan in place in downtown and actually enforce parking codes and enforcement. There'll be people that park on Main Street right in front of some business, and they'll park there all day. Trust me, I've seen it. Okay, and I see some business owners that are in here right now. They're shaking their head yes. So parking enforcement is one of the biggest things in downtown that needs to happen. Providing that platform, that foundation by enforcing codes, parking, stuff like that. I've heard Gamal speak about Highway 20. The reason why people don't stop in Lebanon is because when they drive down through the downtown, especially, there's no parking. So it's a pretty simple thing. It's a simple solution. It just takes true leadership, and leadership can be lonely sometimes, and I'm willing to do that. And you're not always going to make everybody happy. So,
thank you for that question. Lebanon is already a business-friendly town, bustling with opportunity, as evident by all the new businesses that want to open here. I'm a strong proponent of economic development, but will strive for balanced industry growth with a vision for community employment opportunities, greater living wages, and for the future development of our economy. This includes actively recruiting and creating relationships with various industries looking for a home, including small to large businesses prepared to provide much needed opportunities for local residents to find gainful employment and real living wages in our community. I just read that because I just got that question for one of the newspapers. And we also own property downtown, and I have a great big window. Parking issue, absolutely. I would prefer to see that the owners do not park in front of their businesses so other people can park there. But it's not just downtown, folks, it's all over the place. It's the entire strip. So downtown is wonderful to drive through and beautiful to look at, and it's enticing, but it's not just downtown, it's the entire community and the side streets, right? So it's the parking is not the issue. The issue is marketing, the issue is engagement, the issue is convincing people there's a reason to stop in Lebanon and not make it just a drive-through town, but a destination town. You heard me mention comprehensive approach. There needs to be a comprehensive approach to help folks, give them a reason to stop in Lebanon and come back to Lebanon. And the businesses that keep opening and closing, that's because there isn't enough of us to cater to that 1 or 2 or 3 businesses to keep them open. So if we don't figure out a way to get people to stop and shop, those small businesses, especially downtown or on the strip, will continue to open and close.
I found that most small businesses, I've come from a family of small business owners. I've also owned a couple of small businesses myself. They're very difficult. They're very hard. They take a lot of work. And one of the biggest issues that I found as a small business owner is getting the government out of your way. With some of the regulations, some of the policies that are picked down, it makes it harder and harder on business owners, especially in the state of Oregon. State of Oregon is very difficult to do business in. When the last trucks I had, I paid $15,000 a truck to use the roads per year. And the state of Oregon's DOT did nothing but try to get more revenue out of you every time you went over a scale. So my big thing is making Lebanon's government more friendly to business and getting out of their way and letting them do their dream.
I'm not sure Lebanon could get any friendlier to business, as seen by some of the large businesses that come here. What is happening is, how do I bring a large business here, a large industry here, when there's no housing? Right? You have a wonderful school that's open here, and there are students, there are instructors, there's administrators, and they're finding somewhere else to live. So we can go out and recruit business. We can go out and talk to the Googles of the world and some companies. If it fits in our community, we have to make sure it's balanced. We have to make sure it's right for our community, right? But if we don't have a comprehensive approach, a comprehensive plan, and a strategy for a business, whether it's small or large, to come here, stay here, open here, thrive and survive, it will not work.
Good, ready to move on? All right. Our next subject area is housing, city growth and development. It's a little segue there. Throughout Lebanon, people seem incredibly angry about the running rate growth that's been going on since 2018. Since you got the water plant. Not just growth, but it is all 3-story apartment complexes.
Sir, could you restart? They can't hear you in the back.
Okay. Throughout Lebanon, people seem incredibly angry about runaway growth. And not just growth, but it all seems to be 3-story apartment complexes built by big corporations from out of our area. As we know, if you live in an apartment, you don't pay property taxes. So they don't spread the tax burden around to all the homeowners in the area who do pay the taxes to support the schools and the other government services. They also pay a high rent, so they can't save for home ownership, which is robbing them of the American dream. If elected, what is your plan to contain this runaway growth and get more single-family homes instead of apartment high-rises?
Well, as I mentioned, in community development, I would incentivize single-family home construction and renovation. One of my ideas is to have redevelopment zones throughout the city, especially the older neighborhoods and neighborhoods where people buy up houses, they tear them down and build a fourplex. We would incentivize a program that if an owner came in and they wanted to renovate their home, and I've looked into this a little bit and it seems possible, that you would be able to waive the building permit fees. Okay, you would keep the zones small, so that the department in the city hall doesn't get overwhelmed. We have to hire more people. That defeats the purpose. But it gives them the ability to renovate their homes, no cost to the city, still goes through the same process. I want to say this about the apartments, okay? There's nothing wrong with living in an apartment. I've lived in an apartment. However, when the state sends down their mandates and forces you to build them, that's where I start having troubles, okay? I'm not saying that we have an overabundance of housing, because we don't. We always need more homes. But I just don't like the fact of the state mandates that you have to build certain types of homes in your community, and that's in their attempt to change communities from one fabric to another.
Here's how I understand it. Before you can figure out how to solve the problem, you have to understand the problem, right? Lebanon is on track. There's a state report that comes out. Lebanon is on track with its housing and where we're going. The problem is that the land that's available to build on in the last couple of years here inside the city is not developable for single family homes. If one of you is a developer and I give you an acre, right, you can build a number of doors there, but on that same acre, you can build 30 doors, you're gonna build the 30 doors, right? However, the plan, so if you look at what's going on in Lebanon from this point of view, you're going to see an overabundance of apartments being built and single family homes here. We have a project called the West Side Interceptor. The West Side Interceptor is a sewage and water project that the city's been working on for like 20 years, and it is in construction now. Once that's done, it's going to release land for owners to either develop or bring in developers to create about 1,000 single family homes. Once you look at the bird's eye view later on in 3 to 5 years, what you're going to see is a balanced inventory. Apartment prices will come down. Older folks will be able to move into smaller homes. Folks that need lower income homes, that will be available. Remember, I keep talking about balanced housing. When that land is available and we create an inventory of balanced housing from the lower end to the higher end living, then that releases the apartments to bring their price down. People can move, our children can find new homes. They don't have to move out of town. And businesses can come in and stay and live here. So it is a process that when you look at it right now, it does look unbalanced, but there's a plan, there's a strategy, and the city's on it.
There is plenty of opportunities to build on these smaller lots. People that grew up in Lebanon, including myself, have always had a vision of a ranch style home with a little lawn and enough room to build a shop on. That's not the reality anymore. We have to look at other forms of housing, condos, shotgun homes, smaller homes. Look at those. We can fill parcels of land in downtown with townhouses that you sell. Gives ownership to people. It gives them their American dream. We don't have to always build apartments. So there are options for housing on smaller lots. The other thing is the SDCs that people pay, the apartments, they pay one. We need to start maybe through the city council working with the planning commission, start charging by the door. That will reduce developers coming in and just building high-rise apartments.
Our SDCs are appropriate. The city makes sure that it gets its money in order for infrastructure and so forth and so on. And I'm not sure when you look at an apartment right here, down the street, there is 2 townhouses that were built, 4 duplexes, 2 duplexes. That's being built. Now, I have been told by leadership that we don't guide developers, right? If I buy a piece of property, we want government not to tell me what I have to build, so I'll build what I want to build. But I build what's economically feasible for me and what's going to make me money. That's what developers do.
Well, most developers that own apartment complexes, I've looked at multiple studies on this. If they're out of town owners, that apartment complex will degrade over the next 10 years. It will bring more crime. And like I said earlier, it's not that you're a bad person if you live in apartments. I've lived in apartments, but that's the reality of it. We have to make sure we keep that housing balance and that tax base balance.
make a decision, right? We have to either monitor it or leave it alone. I would prefer to have it monitored, because if this is a apartment complex that's run by a developer or run by an owner or run by a property manager, it needs to be up to code. There's no reason why we should expect it to become bad. There's no reason why we should expect it to cause more crime. We shouldn't expect that. We should hold each other and our owners and our renters to a higher standard of living, because you live in Lebanon and you got to be a Lebanite. That's all there is to it.
I would just end my comments on this, that the only way these problems that we've talked about tonight change is you. You get involved. You go to city council meetings, planning commission meetings, if you can go to those, I don't even know. But there's committees that you can go to, you can join, be involved. It's all of us together, not just us two standing up here.
And I appreciate you mentioning that, because when I look at the committees that we have in our little town, and I look at what Albany, for example, has, Albany's 3 times larger, right? But they also have like 4 times more committees than we do, right? We don't have a youth committee anymore. We don't have an elderly committee. We don't have enough folks working to create their community and keep their community beautiful and thriving and happy and safe. So either one of us, we're going to challenge you guys to get involved. And it's not just politics, right? It's getting in your community and cleaning your streets when necessary. It's calling the police when necessary. It's, we just lost a dog the other day, and we just put one little blurb out to the community, and we found that dog within an hour, right? So if I put out that I have an elderly woman who needs to get her house painted so that it can beautify that corner, I'm going to reach out, and I bet that I'm going to get a whole bunch of you out there to help me fix that house, right? We're going to do it.
I'm glad he took the dog. I'm allergic to it.
Anything else? All right, our last category, personal favorite. City taxes and finances. Okay, Lebanon has a $50 million budget deficit, which has been kicked down the road until 2049. We also have 5 urban renewal bonds, and I don't think citizens have to know them. We have some of the highest property taxes in Oregon, and our water and sewer tax might be the highest in the nation. What is your plan to balance the budget that does not include raising taxes even further? I think this is yours.
Yes, sir. So one of the reasons why I got involved on council, there was several, but one of them was because I looked at what I pay my house, and no one can compete with that yet. It's over $6,500. And when someone came to me and said, well, what are you gonna do about taxes? I don't know what I'm gonna do about it yet, but I can tell you what, I'm not gonna raise it because I can't afford it. Because mine's already the highest, and I didn't think it was the highest, but I found out it's the highest because no one can compete with that. So the answer is not easy. By the way, we've already looked at the statistics. We do not have the highest rates. What happens is our team, city, they're visionaries. Some of these directors are brilliant. What they decided to do with the approval of city council is not to hold back on raising taxes when we know we're going to need a new system, when we know we're going to need a new facility, when we know we need to improve infrastructure and we don't have the money to do it, right? What they decided to do was increase taxes incrementally. So you're not in a city that gets hit with a 10, 15, I heard last week as high as 54% increase. That's unreal. That makes you want to just throw up and leave, right? So even though you may not like it, they have done, and we have approved it as well, a process where we can incrementally grow into these taxes. Everything's gotten more expensive. We're not going to get away from it completely. But what we can do is monitor the budget. What we can do is prioritize and make the best decisions that we can for us. We live here too, so we don't want to pay higher taxes. Absolutely not. I don't have one answer to tell you that will probably make you happy. But what I can tell you is you have a group of people downtown at City Hall. You have a council, we're gonna have mostly new council, and they're going to discover the difficulty when you look at that 160-page document, if not more than that, and figure out where we're going to pick and choose and move things around so that we don't have to raise taxes, but we can still afford what we need to afford.
One, the budget is balanced. The question had in there, balance the budget. It is balanced. I've looked at the document multiple times. The biggest problem is our long-term debt. That's the part I see. I've looked at comparable cities throughout the state. I put together a spreadsheet. It's really dry to do that kind of stuff. But you look at comparable cities across the state, our budget is pretty in line with them. The only discrepancy is the long-term debt. The biggest one is the water fund debt, which it matures at 2049. Okay, the other ones, I think there's 5 other ones I could look up on the budget, which right down there. They mature in the next 5 to 6 years. Okay, so solutions, I don't think we can take much from the departments. Okay, we can find innovative ways to pay down that debt. Okay, if that means me going to the state or federal government and getting money with no strings attached, I will do that. Okay, because I think that's the biggest thing to move us forward in this city, is paying down that long-term debt so we can reallocate that money to other departments or other investments, or even possibly lower taxes a little bit. So
My background is in social services and nonprofit management, as well as business administration, working with small and large businesses, and working on budgets and strategies and things like that. One of the things that I know, because I am not afraid to ask for money. I can't ask for money for me, but I have no problem asking for money for our community, for our families, and for programs, and for our children, and for our elderly. Done it for many, many years. I'm really good at it. The problem, though, is that you can't just ask for money without the strings. There's always strings attached to the money. So first of all, the city has lots of strategies in place to pay for these things that involves our taxpayer money, that involves grants, that involves all sorts of things, right? And again, it's not an easy situation to discuss or come to terms with, but I want you to know that not only do I have the experience going out to look for that money, I also have the experience to know that you don't want all money, because when you get some money, it causes you problems somewhere else. So it has to be the right pot. It has to come from the right location and for the right situation. And I have examples.
when you go and ask for money, is there going to be strings attached? Yes, you mitigate that as much as possible. But I'm going to look for those deals that do not have strings attached, because they'll tap strings like, you need to do this in your community. You need to build a skyscraper in downtown. You need to have a homeless camp out at Cheetah Lake. Okay. Some of those things bigger cities can take care of. I don't think Lebanon has the tax base or the size yet, because Lebanon will grow over the next 20 years quite a bit. We're too close to I-5 not to. So you really have to watch and manage the growth and watch and manage where you get the money and what strings are attached. And sometimes the strings might be beneficial to Lebanon. So that's the part that I would really look at. I'm not scared to go and talk to people at all. So
when I met candidate Betsy Johnson, one of the things I said to her during her presentation, and she said something about people knocking on my door and calling me and so forth and so on. I said, listen, if you win, I'm going to be one of those calling you. You better answer the phone, because I need money. Lebanon needs money. But here's an example. So Representative Jamie Kate found the city of Lebanon $2.6 million to work on Cheetah Lake. We have an $8 million project for Cheetah Lake. Okay, that $2.6 million that she provided to us, that she fought for, was for accessibility, ADA accessibility. So that $8 million project to complete the park changed, because the money that came with it needed to go towards a particular purpose. So when they say strings attached, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, absolutely. So we look for the ones that we can manage. Now, that particular pot didn't hurt us because it's still gonna go into the park. So there's lots of other examples like that, but you have to be careful what you go after.
I believe the biggest thing that it takes to address this problem is strong leadership. I will provide that. I will listen to the citizens. I will go out and find innovative ways of figuring this out and paying down that debt. That's all I have to say about it.
No, that's okay. We're good.
All right. Each of you will have 2 minutes for any final comments. Career association. What do you want to say? If you don't want to say anything, we can have it.
Do I still get to go first?
If you'd like.
Oh, I went first last time.
All right.
If elected as your mayor, I will strive to be accessible, approachable. I already am. People know where I am. People come talk to me all the time. And a representative of the entire community, be it conservative, be it liberal, all religions, all races, all backgrounds. Our community is first and foremost. Unity, working together towards a goal, having a vision, because if you aim at nothing, you hit nothing. Ideas don't come knocking to you on the door. You got to go looking for them. Opportunities don't come knocking if you're not prepared. Opportunities can't be accepted if you're not prepared. And they're abundant. But what we haven't done lately is go out looking for them. I'm not afraid to do that. I've already started doing that. Leaders that are in place right now, they know Mr. G. They know Mr. G's coming and looking for something. When I walk into Nancy, this is a joke, right? When I walk into Nancy's office, which is our city manager, Nancy Bruce, she goes, "No, Mr. G, I got no money." Because I'm in there because I'm looking for something. A resident needs something, even a stop sign. You guys know how much a stop sign costs? Those things are not cheap. But if you don't have it in your line item, if you don't have it in your budgets, they're hard to do. They're hard to provide. So we keep talking about balancing budgets. We keep talking about looking for money. We keep talking about where money's going to come from. It's not just about money. We can't solve all our problems with money. However, they do help. It does help, right? So the process needs to be a comprehensive process. It needs involvement from the community. It does need strong leadership, right? Last night, I got attacked verbally on the council, and I went to talk to the gentleman. I wasn't hateful. I wanted more information about what he was talking about. I didn't agree with him, but you know what I did? I went back and I looked at the last meeting so I could learn and watch and see if I said something wrong or I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but I suggested something that I didn't mean. Now I looked at it because to me, failure is only when you stop. Success is just never, success, no matter when you get to it, you just keep going, right? You don't fail until you stop. So for me, it was, how may I be a better communicator? Because maybe I didn't communicate well. How may I communicate better to my residents, to my constituents? And as a counselor, I went back and looked at it. I didn't agree with him, but I did that because, like my wife likes to say, if nobody complains, no solutions are born, right? And not that I want complaints, I want people to bring issues. We also had someone that, for example, when I'm talking about, we had some homeowners that live right next to the skate park. And for months, they've been dealing with a negative situation. So they brought that to the council. She came back yesterday, which is a month later, and said, problem's not solved, but we're making progress. Because somebody brought that to the council and had an issue, and we're trying to figure out. It wasn't a huge issue. It was minor, but to them who live there, it was big. So that's the mayor I want to be. I want to be the mayor that represents you. I want to be the mayor that represents all of you, whether we agree or disagree. That's okay. That's what makes us excellent. Because as long as we keep an open mind, as long as we're working towards it, as long as we're trying to find solutions, we will be excellent. And that's a journey.
I want to be a mayor that represents everybody, no matter where you come from, what your family belief systems are, because that's what we need. Government's been too divided for too long. It's not government's job to tell you how to think, how to live. And when you don't agree with them, they call you a bunch of names. Okay. So that's the type of mayor I want to be, listening to everybody, because I learn from everyone. Might not be a whole bunch on some cases, but on almost every occasion, there's been only a few, and that's, you know. But I learn from everyone, and that's how you grow as a person. Okay. I have strong leadership abilities. I've proved that through the military, leading small teams up to 700 soldiers. I know how to lead at the highest executive level. Putting my platform in force, the law enforcement reforms, community development, budgetary responsibility, and transparency will rebuild the foundation we need to move forward and obtain the 2040 vision. I'm not going to say we're going to always agree, because we probably won't. But I found out leadership is a very lonely position, because most of the time everybody disagrees with you. I'm okay with that. I've always been okay with that, and maybe that's why I became a good leader in the military. So with that being said, I ask for your vote on election day, or when the ballots come out, and be involved. That's the biggest thing. I want the community to be involved, and I will be an advocate out there all the time getting that involvement. So if you see me on the street, I'm going to probably say something. Going to those meetings, that's the type of person I am. Once I'm in, I'm all in. So thank you.
Good job.
That concludes the formal portion. I don't know if you guys are up for some of the hard work, which is questions from the audience. That's where things get fun, I found out.
Let's take two. We'll go from there.
We were just talking two, and then maybe do it into a town or a meet and greet where we can walk around and say everybody's sitting so formal. So,
I'll let them set the agenda. So if we have two questions, and then we can go from there. I'll let you guys pick them.
that gentleman right there.
My name's Keith Murphy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I used to go to the city hall meetings, and I might as well have went out in the woods and talked to animals. When I first started, I just listened, and then the pride thing come up. And evidently, they gave the pride people $30,000. I never found out for sure because I asked the mayor twice, and he never did tell me. So I took it for granted that he did. And it turned out to be all of Lynn County for a month, not a day. So I thought, well, Mr. Nasser, if you become mayor, I would like to build a church. And I could sure use $30,000. Would you be willing to give me $30,000 of our taxpayer money?
The answer to that is no. But what I can do is help you raise a committee that will help you raise the money. Because as far as I know, that organization got no money from the city. They got some sponsorship funds. By the way, that event won an award from Oregon Main Street. And it was the first award of its kind. So I applaud the group that put that together. And is there a question that he and I
That's
can?
my question, because if they donated all that money to the Pride people,
That
don't
didn't
donate
happen.
it to anybody.
That never happened. The only thing that the city participated in was giving them the space free, the park. And normally there's a fee for the park, and that was it,
What he
nothing else.
said, That's not what he said,
Who's he, sir?
the mayor.
Well, the mayor wasn't even supportive, so he would have never given that kind
Yes,
of
he
money. And
was.
nor we have that, nor does the city have that kind of money.
All right, that's good. We got yeah, we got it. I think, that was that whole gay pride issue.
Number two,
So. Uh-oh. There's another one.
I live on Wagon, just off of Wagon Wheel.
Oh, yeah.
Second Street turns to Main. There's two quadruplexes, and they dug a well for the two quadruplexes. I went to City Hall and I told them I wanted to drill a well for my house. And they said, well, you'll have to go to Salem. But city. And I said, why would I have to go to Salem when the city people was all around it when they were drilling? I never did see the state anywhere. And they said, well, you own your house. So what's going on? Mr. Jacoba.
This would be strictly speculation on my part without doing the proper research, but I would venture to say that it probably has to do with, you're within the city limits, that the water rights for the state of Oregon are controlled through Salem. And the city really has no authority on that. So they could approve a well for Salem. And this, like I said, is speculation. I would have to do the research on it. But I think it's because of the authoritative body that controls water rights in Oregon, and it's in Salem. That's why, because you can hook up the city water sources. If you want to put an actual well in, you would have to go through them. As far as I know, don't quote me on that, but that's what I would speculate, venture to say.
You're pretty close, absolutely. And that is an excellent example of how both of us will listen to all residents and take the information in and provide information out. Another question? Yes, ma'am, in the orange.
I just had kind of, it's basically it's the same thing about the city council and being able to listen to the residents. I've been in city council meetings and sometimes I see great response to what the residents have to say, and sometimes I have seen where it's, you know, they just listen and then it kind of just gets put away. One thing, there was a question brought up about the pot stores. I know that when that came out on the ballot, that all of Lebanon residents voted them down, but my understanding was that later on the city council, without input, or not input, but they just decided that they were going to go ahead and allow the pot stores, and now we have a lot of them around. I don't even know how many there are now. So what would you do in a case that the residents didn't want something, but the city council, I guess, determined that the taxes were well enough that they could bring them in when you really don't want them? You know, and that's just kind of one instance that I was talking about. The other one was the taxes that, you know, all the long-term debt you were saying that was put in. We were all told that it was going to be temporary to pay for this or pay for that, or, you know, and then when that's done, taxes are supposed to go back down, but that never happens. When they're done, we're talking about appropriating the funds to something else. Sure would be nice for those taxes to actually go back down. We have anything to look forward to, because the residents, I know so many retired people go back and leave because they can't afford the taxes after they retire. They can't afford the water or sewer, and they have to leave because they can't afford the taxes. They have to move and sell their house. So those are the two things that I'm hoping you might be able to answer for me.
Okay, on the pot shops, I wasn't involved with those, but I'm in same agreement with you. I think we got too many. I don't know how many selections of marijuana shops you need when they only have one liquor store. I think the state should have. And I partake in that, but anyhow, I think the state should have kept a consistent thought process and policy by making the pot shops exactly like the liquor stores. And if you weren't going to do that, you should have opened up the liquor stores to be sold everywhere and got rid of the contractors. But that's out of the mayor's hands. So to your one question, about listening to the citizens. I found that when they listen to you and it just kind of falls on deaf ears, they don't have an answer for you. Okay, that's the reality of it. All I can say is I will sit there and listen for hours. We will sit there until midnight if we need to get through everybody that wants to speak. However, there is time limits. There is, because of the process. I'm a big, strong believer in the process. Someone asked me the other day about they were talking about the proclamation that they didn't want to sign. And they said, well, they didn't get listened to. And I go, well, actually, yes, they did. They went, they commenced with the process. They went in front of the city council and they were heard. They just didn't get the result they wanted. Okay. We have to be a believer in the process. We cannot pick and choose and get mad when the process doesn't work our way, because it's not always going to work that way. When we start picking and choosing, that's when it all crumbles apart. So, and then what was the third part of your question? Pawn shops, listening, and taxes. Yeah, in my comment or my remarks, I said reallocate money, maybe increase budgets, or possibly even give tax relief to the tax base. I'm a big proponent of that. I agree with you. There's been many times where they say, oh, once it's like the toll roads in Florida. If you've ever been to Florida, they take a toll, they build this big road, and then the toll booths still stay up after it's paid for. I'm a big proponent in lowering taxes, and if we can do it, I will do that. So let Gamal, sir. Or
Thank you.
Are we just taking one each? Or are you
No,
responding to that one too?
respond to that one if it's okay. So I agree with you 100%. Our city is fairly transparent. If you want something, you can find it. The problem is we're not really good at reaching out. We're not really good at sharing information when we have it, providing that information when we need it, and so forth and so on. I had several people come up to me and say, Mr. G, I'll vote for you, but communicate with me. Communicate with us, the people. And I say, well, how? And they'll mention Facebook or a page on Facebook. Well, that's not enough, folks. We have to have a tried and true method of reaching out to you and communicating to you in multiple ways. I've heard the term trust our city, right? Or loss of trust and so forth and so on. Absolutely. If you don't hear from me, how can you trust me? If you don't hear from me, how can you know what we're doing? So absolutely, we're not doing a really good job. I think we do a decent job listening, and he's right. If I don't have an answer for you, I'm going to avoid you. I'm in insurance. I hate insurance companies. I hate them. You know why I hate them? Because I know the inside, and there's a couple other insurance agents here. We're agents. We are an agent of a company, right? We represent companies, but they don't pay our bills, right? And I tell them all the time, especially when someone has a claim and they're feeling down and low and tragic, is that you need, even if it's bad news, you need to communicate quickly, honestly, and with grace. So I take that very seriously, meaning if the other day the city made a mistake, a whole bunch of bills went out and they shouldn't have went out. It took 5 days for the city to communicate to you. Shame on us. And we told the city this at council. That can't happen. How are we going to fix it? So we're looking at multiple ways, whether it's a communication officer, whether it's one of the counselors, whether it's a staff person, our website could be better, whether we send out text to everybody in the community, email. I don't know what all the solutions are. I do know that it can't be one method. It has to be multiple methods. So when it comes to the proclamation, you brought this up, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit. It was not about whether we agreed or didn't agree. For me, it was lack of respect. And when I say respect, I mean respect to you. What we should have done was come back and talk to you individually as individual counselors and the mayor and tell you why, whether we're for it or against it. I had a problem because I wasn't able to have a conversation that you could all hear. I wasn't able to hear my other counselors tell me why they didn't want it or why we should go ahead and do it. That was lack of respect to my community, our community, your community. We were talking about the number of children who came to us and said, we need to be recognized. We're asking to be recognized. We're not looking for special treatment, right? We're being bullied in our schools and something needed to be done. And that was their idea. You don't know why I agreed to it, why I didn't agree to it, or do agree with it, because I didn't get a chance to tell you. What I do know is that a couple months later, I'm sitting at a memorial for a young man who's no longer with us, and he took his life. I can tell you from working with thousands of young people that they always reach out. We don't hear them as adults because they didn't communicate the way we thought they should have communicated. Bad timing, bad language, the wrong method, but they always reach out. And I don't exactly know why that young man took his life, but I can tell you, if it was for that reason, I am ashamed. I was ashamed not to get back to those young people and give them a response, a proper response. And it didn't have to be yes. It didn't have to be, but it had to be a response, not a response in the paper. I wanted to look them in the eye and say yes or no, and here's why. So it wasn't about the issue anymore to me. It was about communication to our community. And we all deserve our elected officials to respond to us and give us the answer, whether we're looking for it or not, with grace, with speed, and understanding.
I'll take one more and then I need to walk around because my back is.
I want to make a point. With
Standing here.
regard to pot shop tonight, now we have magic mushrooms on the bell. So now they want to legalize magic mushrooms and get those into stores. Every city of the 15 cities in Lynn County said yes or no. Yes, do you want magic mushrooms or keep them out of here? Lebanon is a 2-year moratorium. So, and you have to remember, it's one of those votes where yes means no. So they did the political jujitsu on it. So be very careful. If you don't want magic mushrooms in Lebanon, watch that ballot and vote. I guess you got to vote yes to me no. So, okay.
Well, the lady in the corner there had a question.
No, you were talking about city council meetings and stuff, and I think that the building that you're holding the city council meetings in is way too small.
I would agree with that. Last night, you could feel that.
These people in there try.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Well, if we were bad stewards of their money, we'd be building a new one. But the city council cannot come to terms with what it would cost, and it just doesn't make any financial sense to us. And as much as we would like a new city hall and an area where we can have larger city council meetings, we haven't figured that out yet. So we're open to input. If you have the kind of building that we can make that happen and want to donate it or want to work with us, we're looking for it. We really are. But
Call the high school.
maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question on, I'm sure we all have ideas for our community, but I think there kind of needs to be some kind of a form so we know how to approach the city council with grace and respect, but also have the tools of what you want so that we could be heard. Like you said something about a committee. I knew a guy one time who goes, oh, I get rid of him by telling him to go form a committee and I never see him again. Well, we need instructions on what we need to do to get our proposal to go through. Are we supposed to talk to 4 community members and get 4 bids and, you know, just some kind of information so that we can come to the city council with all our ideas and the process on how to do that. How do we come to you without, you know, just getting put off until next June? We need a process that we can print out a piece of paper and maybe get all our information out to present it to you so we can actually make some steps forward. We need help in the process.
So I agree. We have a pretty good we have a pretty good staff. We have pretty good staff at City Hall. They can answer most of those questions. I'm not gonna tell you go online. I'm not gonna tell you go to the website, because that stuff is there as well. But folks have come to city council and the woman I mentioned regarding the skate park, she didn't know what to do. She just came and said, I got a problem. And she listed the problems. She immediately got the attention of the city manager, the police chief, and Dale Johnson, right? She didn't ask for anything. She just listed the issues. So that's the start, right? I get some constituents that said, well, we want a stop sign. Our city isn't really, our council doesn't like stop signs. But if you say you need a stop sign, we do the research, we bring out the lines, we contact the police, we figure out if it constitutes the area for a stop sign. If you still want a stop sign, then don't quit. I'm here to listen, and I want our community to be safe. If you and your neighbors feel you need a stop sign, I'm gonna work on getting your stop sign. It's expensive, and et cetera, et cetera. There's other things that the street might not even belong to the city. But I'm gonna do what I can to work with you. And our city is really, really, you know, our city staff, they live here too. They're part of you. They want you to be happy. We all want to be happy. And if it means working with you to explain how to do something, we're more than willing to do that, man. And you know what? Whether I become mayor or not, you can always find me and say, gee, I need help. I'm gonna help you.
I would just say this. I've been to city council meetings as of late. I owned businesses where I got up at sometimes 3 in the morning, didn't get home until 7 at night. So I really didn't have the schedule to go to meetings or greeters on Fridays with the chamber. But what I found out in that time that I've been going to them, there is no process for citizens. About the only process there is getting there, filling out a little yellow card that says you want to speak. That's it. So they can schedule you within the agenda of the meeting. That's it. So it's not a hard process. Now, like Kamil said, I'm not going to tell you to go online. There's probably video after video on YouTube, but it's a very simple process. And looking on the city's website, you can see when the council meetings are, and just show up. We're not there to judge you and say, oh, you didn't do that right. That's what, if I'm mayor, that's what happens to us. The city attorney sits right here. Yeah, you didn't read that right. Okay, those rules don't apply to citizens that want to speak in front of the council. Come and speak. That's it. No.
Okay.
All right, I think these guys just want to switch it. That's for everybody. And the one thing I'll say about this facility here is we have a lot of people coming in and presenting us with a lot of ideas. Like we have a lady who has gone all out on the homelessness issue. So we can set up committees. So come and talk to us. And all we need is citizens coming together and working together. So with that, thank you. And then we got cookies. We might have a little coffee left, and help yourself, and they'll go around talking and addressing you individually. Thank you all very much for coming, and my apologies for not having enough cheer. So thank you.
I was trying to think good ones of you guys. Want me to wait till